All right, guys. So we're going to dive into this last part of the part 8 of the Entertainment Weekly article on episode 8, The Last Jedi. We want to thank Entertainment Weekly and Anthony Barisnikan for bringing us all of this great episode 8 news. So we're going to dive into this last article, which is Kylo Ren's humiliation and other tales from the Star Wars dark side. So we're going to dive, looks like we're going to be diving a bit into the dark side, not only in this article, but it looks like we're going to get a little bit of lore added to the dark side of the Force here in episode 8. So let's get started on this article. So as we close out EW's cover story on The Last Jedi, let's take a trip into the dark side of the galaxy. Most of the previous stories have focused on the heroes of the Star Wars saga, and the new film's theme about the risk and rewards of meeting those you idolize. Here's a look at some of the villains and a tease of what to expect from them when the film opens on December 15th. Kylo Ren, the aspiring Sith, let his last bit of light slip away when he drove his janky handmade lightsaber into the heart of his father, Han Solo. But there was no victory for Kylo Ren as he sank into the abyss. Instead, he was humiliated by a scavenger girl of all things. He's definitely been knocked off base, says The Last Jedi writer-director Rian Johnson. The defeat that he had at the end of The Force Awakens, but even bigger than that, his huge defining act, which, spoiler alert, is the murder of his father. That is the more interesting thing to dive into. How has he dealt with that in his head? Where is he at in terms of the act, and what does that mean for him? Johnson said Ben Solo's shift into darkness is symbolic of the treacherous road through adolescence that Star Wars often explores. Kylo represents kind of the rebellious anger that you feel during that period. Honestly, sometimes it's a healthy desire to push away from the place that you know, from the things that you came from. But he obviously does it in an extreme that is not healthy at all. He says Kylo and Rey are two halves of the dark and the light. Among their shared interests, she is an expert pilot, and in this film, we'll see him maneuvering his own ship, the TIE Silencer, which is a variation of his grandfather, Darth Vader's old ship. Obviously we know why it has so much similarities to Darth Vader's ship. It is obviously a variant of his grandfather's craft. So very cool information there. And then it states here, Han Solo. Yes, he's back in a way. That's interesting. Kylo Ren's murder of Han Solo also makes Rey's contempt for him much more personal. He's no longer just a random madman terrorizing the galaxy. Rey has a grudge. He stole from her the father figure she'd been searching for her whole life. She just doesn't understand Kylo, Daisy Ridley says. When all she wanted was parents, why would a person who has parents do that? It is so beyond comprehension, it's ridiculous. So she has grief for the loss, and then there's anger. To be honest, she couldn't understand doing something like that, let alone to your parents. Although his character is no more, Han Solo's legacy lives on. Han, the ghost of, well, not literally, Johnson says, interrupting himself with a laugh. I don't want to misguide. I have to be very careful with my words here, but figurative ghost of Han had to be present throughout this entire film. So that's really interesting. They more than likely will be references to Han's character, or to the character of Han in this film. So that's going to be very cool to see. And then of course we get a little bit here on Captain Phasma. Those who wanted the silver armored stormtrooper to get more screen time in The Force Awakens will be getting their wish this time around, which is absolutely cool. So she's going to get more screen time here. It states that Gwendolyn Christie's merciless First Order officer Captain Phasma has a more significant role in The Last Jedi. Gwendolyn Christie is one of my favorite people, and you get to see her in action, which I think is going to be really fun, Johnson says. That character is just so damn cool looking. Like, okay, let's see what we can do with her. Let's put her in action and see what happens. In the trailer, we can see her leading an assault on a rebel base, and John Boyega promises we'll see her in a showdown with his ex-stormtrooper Finn. The two last saw each other when he was stuffing her down a garbage chute into a trash compactor. The Last Jedi won't necessarily explore a new backstory for Phasma, but her broader tale will be told in 2 new books. The novel Phasma by Delia S. Dawson, which delves into how she originated on the hard scrabble planet and sought escape by joining the First Order. It's on shelves September 1st. And then the Marvel comic book Captain Phasma, which reveals how she escaped from the trash compactor on Starkiller Base and made her way into action of The Last Jedi. The first issue hits stores on September 6th. So those are 2 key dates for those book readers of Star Wars material. Those are 2 key dates that you want to mark down and put on your calendar. So we're going to go into Chewbacca here. Okay, he's not, okay, clearly he is not a villain, but there is darkness surrounding the Wookiee in this film. Very interesting. Chewbacca, played by Juna Sumato, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, fully taking over the role from the original actor Peter Mayhew, is mourning his best friend Han Solo. And that grief is not easily to articulate, despite his proficiency with roars and groans. We are going to see a depressed Chewie, but we might encounter one who is a little more volatile than usual. Johnson says things will be okay for him. Ultimately, Chewie's doing all right. It's tough. It was obviously a big loss for him, but you know, he's Chewie. He's resilient, Johnson says. He's got broad Wookiee shoulders, and he also has a new mission. He's got Rey, and she's someone that Han, to a certain extent, handed the keys to. So I think that helps. It could be worse. If Chewie was just unemployed and sitting at home, things might be a little rougher, but he's got a task to focus on, Johnson adds. Also, he has some new friends as well. Probably speaking on the porgs there, or judging by the feather in his mouth, they are snacks. Oh, okay, that's absolutely funny, because the guys on Collider Jedi Council last night mentioned that it would be hilarious if Chewie would eat one of those porgs, and judging from this particular photo that we're looking at here, that may very well be the case. So, which is, I wish they had not revealed that right there, because I think that would have been an absolute hilarious moment in the movie. So, it's unfortunate that they threw that photograph in there, but funny nonetheless. I would have rather seen that in the theater though. So moving on with the article, we're going to move on to Maz Kanata here. And with Maz, again, this character isn't a bad guy by any means, but we've got some unfortunate news that places her in our dark side roundup. Very interesting stuff that they're exploring here with us. There will be less of the little orange sage in this movie, although Lupita's character still turns up for an important moment in the spotlight. So obviously we're not going to get much on Maz Kanata, unfortunately, in this film, but she is going to play a certain role, so that's absolutely cool. She has a smaller part in this than she had in The Force Awakens, but it's really a fun part. It's so awesome, Johnson says. I'm just happy I got to work with her. Maz has insight into the past, and for a film about history, family, connections, and the way that the Force shapes destinies, she is bound to deliver important information. Johnson says even he learned something. This was my first time working with motion cap characters and working with actors in that way. He says, I feel like I got such an incredible education watching Lupita work. That does it for EW's Last Jedi coverage. Here's the full list of stories this week. So, guys, that is the story there on Kylo Ren and the dark side and some of the things that we can look forward to when The Last Jedi opens on December 15th. So, guys, what I want to know from you, what are you most looking forward to? Given all of the information that we received from the Entertainment Weekly article, the photographs, the introduction of the Porgs, even though we knew about them prior to Entertainment Weekly. But what do you think of the Porgs? What do you think of Chewie eating the Porgs? Let me get back down to that photograph right there. He's going to be eating the Porgs apparently, and the guys on Jedi Collider Council nailed it with that. So poor Porgs, man, they're going to be breakfast, lunch, and dinner for Chewie. So guys, I want to know what you think about all this great information. I want to hear your thoughts and know what you think about all of this. So please put those comments down below. I will be reviewing those comments and responding to those comments. So I want to thank you guys very, very much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. And the Father to the Son to the Obi-Wan Force Ghost. May the Force be with you always.